What would you do if your vote could exile someone from your city for 10 years? Or, what if your neighbor's vote could exile you? These were real dilemmas faced by citizens in ancient Athens, where the world's first democracy was born. It was bold, innovative, and far from perfect. But here's the twist. The lessons from this ancient experiment still shape our world today. Ready to explore how? Let's dive in. Imagine standing on the Pnyx, a rocky hill overlooking the Acropolis, as thousands of Athenians gather to debate and vote on laws. There are no professional politicians, no campaign ads, just citizens openly raising their hands or dropping stones to decide the city's future policies. This was the essence of Athenian democracy, direct participation in decision-making. It was introduced by Cleisthenes in 508 BC, thrived for nearly 2 centuries, with its height in the 5th and 4th centuries BC. When it came to leadership roles, like serving on the Council of 500 or as magistrates, Athenian democracy took a different approach. Instead of elections, most positions were filled by lotteries. This ensured every eligible male citizen had an equal chance to lead, regardless of wealth or influence. It was a bold belief in the wisdom and fairness of ordinary people to govern themselves. Of course, this democratic ideal had its limits. Women, slaves, and foreigners, over half the population, were excluded. Imagine a democracy where most voices are silent. Yet, for those who participated, the sense of empowerment was unparalleled. Would you trust your neighbors to govern, knowing your voice carried equal weight? In Athens, myths weren't just bedtime stories, they shaped identity and politics. One key myth was autochthony, the belief that Athenians were born from the soil of their land. This idea fostered unity among male citizens, binding them as equals with a shared divine heritage. Picture this. Athenians believed they were not immigrants or conquerors, but literally children of their homeland. This shared lineage justified their equality and deepened their connection to the city. One of its most dramatic features was ostracism. Imagine the entire city voting to exile someone for 10 years, not through trial but collective judgment. On one hand, it was a safeguard against tyranny. On the other hand, it could be a popularity contest gone wrong. Picture the tension as pottery shards, ostraca, were counted, determining someone's fate. The stakes were high. An exile meant losing your home, your family, and your identity for a decade. Could you live in a society like this? Athenian democracy wasn't a utopia. While it gave power to citizens, it left many marginalized. Women couldn't vote, enslaved people had no rights, and foreigners, even those living in Athens for generations, were excluded. The fall of Athenian democracy began in the late 4th century BC. Defeats like the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC placed Athens under Macedonian control, curtailing its autonomy. By the time Rome conquered Greece in 146 BC, Athenian democracy had become symbolic, replaced by centralized systems under monarchs and governors. It collapsed because it couldn't adapt to geopolitical realities and its own internal flaws: elitism, factionalism, and exclusion. What does this tell us? Even the boldest experiments in governance can falter if they're not resilient and inclusive. Despite its flaws, Athenian democracy left a powerful legacy. Its emphasis on civic participation inspired modern representative systems. Concepts like citizen assemblies in Canada and Ireland echo the Athenian Council of 500. More importantly, Athens sparked a global conversation about who deserves a voice in governance. Its exclusion of women and slaves was eventually challenged by movements for universal suffrage and equality. Even today, debates about voter rights and political access trace their roots back to the ideals Athens pioneered. Athens didn't create a perfect democracy, but it ignited a journey toward inclusion that continues to shape the world. Civic participation. Athenian citizens were expected to be actively involved in their governance. Today, this could mean voting in local elections, attending town halls, or joining community initiatives. For example, Imagine a community coming together to petition for a new park in their neighborhood. Their voices matter, and their efforts can lead to tangible change, just as Athenians influenced laws in the assembly. Equality. Athenian democracy fell short of true equality, but it started a conversation. Today, fighting for voter access or mentoring underrepresented groups in politics reflects this value. For instance, programs that encourage young people from minority communities to run for office exemplify the ongoing pursuit of inclusion and fairness in governance. Responsibility. In Athens, citizens didn't just have rights, they had duties, from jury service to military defense. Today, responsibility means staying informed, volunteering for causes, or combating misinformation. Consider how people mobilize during natural disasters to organize relief efforts. They aren't just helping, they're taking responsibility for their community's well-being, reflecting the Athenian spirit of collective duty. Are we living up to these democratic values in our own lives? Athenian democracy was a bold experiment in political power and civic responsibility. It wasn't perfect, but it dared to give ordinary people the keys to governance. Its lessons remind us that democracy isn't just a system, it's a way of life. So here's the challenge. How will you shape the democracy you live in? Will you participate, advocate for equality, and take responsibility? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to our channel for more captivating journeys into history and beyond.